G'day, I'm Greg and welcome to the shed. Well, I got home last night for the first time in the best part of a month. I've sort of spent half a night here and half a night there back. I've spent one day and yeah, I'm back now for a few days. So I get to play in the shed. It's been good, Christmas and New Year away, working. Yeah, look, these things happen when you haven't got wife and kids. You can do those things. It's always nice to have Christmas and New Year off, but you got to take the work when you can get it. But this morning I walked outside and I walked past the swimming pool and went, that pump's not doing too well. And went to check the main filter in the pool, the skimmer box. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. And then I went over and had a look at the pump, and the pump filter was pretty blocked. And when I took it out to have a look at it, I found this. It was so blocked up, it's broken the bottom out, sucked it through. These things happen. Yeah. People say it's bad maintenance, it's yada yada yada. Well, look, it happens. People don't do these things deliberately or intentionally. You know, it's as much my fault as it is anyone else's, because I didn't set a maintenance routine, I didn't set a instruction on how to do it. There's stuff that should have been done which I just do and I don't think anything of. And it's that time of year, it's summer, there's pollen in the air, there's little leaves falling down and it gets through there. So what's happened is now is the pump vibrates quite badly. It's off, it's actually sitting here behind me. It vibrates quite badly, it's not pumping any volume. Yeah, it's a bit of a worry. The sand filter is, well, I can't back flush it because I can't get enough water flow to back flush it. So, but I would imagine there's a fair bit of gunk on top of it. Hopefully I can wash it out, otherwise then I'm going to have to take the sand out of the filter, put new sand in it. The worst thing about it is all the stuff's less than 2 years old. Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll strip the pump down and we'll have a look inside it and we'll see what's good and what's not, and hopefully it hasn't done too much damage. So I'll move the camera and we'll be back. Okay, after that interruption we're back again. So this is a Davey variable speed pump and it's very good. It's got 3 modes on it, high, medium and low flow, soft start. As I said, I've been very, very happy with it. If I start with the right size, it'll be better. Where are we? We're working on the back of the ute today because I went to start it and the battery's flat, so I've just put the battery on charge. And we'll try not to drop too many washers. It's not bad, it gives me a holder here just out of shot to put my bits in. So if I'm lucky, there won't be too much damage to the impeller, and the impeller will just be full of leaves. Another debris. So we'll see how we go. we go. Oh yes. So we've got the back housing here with a diffuser ring and an O-ring, which we will try not to fall into an impossible invisible spot. And here we have an impeller, which let's zoom in on this a little bit so you can, let's level the camera up, let's go zoom. So here's the reason why it's not pumping much water. And I think we're going to have a few more challenges here because when I look in on the outside here, this feels like a permanent magnet motor because it's when I turn it I can feel it being notchy, and that's not a bad thing, that's just a characteristic of permanent magnet motors. Right, let's see if we can get this into shot so that you can get another look. Okay, this is the outer part of the water pump, and I can see all of this here's got stuff in it. So I'm going to get a bit of wire, get a bit of MIG wire, and we'll start pushing stuff through. Over here. One piece, 2.4mm MIG wire. Yeah, okay. We have to put a little bit of a bend in it. So there we go, so this went in here and the stuff comes out around there, so it's about a quarter of a turn. Oh dear. Yep. So you can see where this is going in and the stuff is coming out here. Keep digging stuff out because wait, there's more. So what I'm doing here is I'm just working from the top, working my way in. This slot here is just about completely blocked by the looks of it. Oh yep, there we go. So we've got a bit of stick. Come around the next one. And we'll dig a bit out of there. Oh, there doesn't appear to be too bad. This one's got something in it, which looks like a piece of plastic. There's one of the pieces of plastic. There's one of the pieces of plastic. So we'll see if we can get a bit of a look here. This one here's got big chunks in it too. Let's give that a push. Another chunk of something solid. Might have been a bit of another piece of wood of some description. Bits of that. No wonder it was vibrating and shaking and carrying on. Okay, so that's not looking too bad now. So, let's zoom out a bit. Yeah, that's the other zoom out we'll use. All of this stuff here all came out of the impeller of the pump. Now, for those of you that don't know, let's tilt it up a little bit so you can see a little bit more. This is a centrifugal pump. Now what happens, the way these work, it's just me finding another little piece in here. Just looking for bits of damage in here, doesn't look too bad. It's got a bit of damage, but I think it'll be okay. Alright, the way these pumps work is sort of counterintuitive. What happens is, the water goes in the centre here. Now this has got blades in it which are curved, in this case, like this. Now, what that does is that tells me that this pump spins in this direction. Yes, it spins, for want of a better way of putting it, backwards. These are called backwards curved blades. The advantage of having backwards curved blades is that they actually pump more water. You've got a big inlet here. The depth of the inlet here is very roughly about, I'm having trouble seeing it so I haven't got enough light. Yeah, it's about 13 or 14 millimetres, maybe 15. And the outlets are, yeah, about 3 millimetres. So it's roughly a 5 to 1 as a nominal, somewhere in a 5 to 1 ratio. What that does, the length in here between the vanes, which actually I'll turn you off, I'll set some more light up and we'll see if we can explain it a bit better for you. That looks a bit better, and I've got a wet mum sitting on water. Try not to mop it all up, so I'll go and sit on that again. Alright, I can see a bit better, I hope you can. So, what we've got in here is we've got these vanes. Because they're a small diameter, what we've got is it's fairly deep in here, top to bottom, which I can see quite well. Let's zoom you in a bit so you can see. Alright, let's try and keep all of this in shot and in and it up. Typically the light is exactly where we don't want it. Okay, I'll move you and set you up again. My apologies, but this is about as good as it's going to get because it's black. Okay, so we've got an opening in here, which, as I was saying, is about, because I can see better now, it's about 15 millimetres deep from this face to the inside of the lip. Now, what happens there is that as this spins, because these are hanging back, they create a low pressure area, and what that does is it flings the water out, and the water gets flung out to the outside where it will come into contact with the, it's just me pouring more water over myself, good thing it's still warm today, with the diffuser. This is the diffuser, and the diffuser will control the water flow and stabilise it, and it will come out here. So the diffuser, this here is the inlet, this is the housing we took off, this is the inlet, The inlet, let's zoom out so you can see more. Yeah, other zoom out. Okay, the water comes in, goes through the filter, along with any leaves and stuff that's small enough it doesn't get filtered out, down into the bottom here. It then comes around and flows out. I don't know if you can see me. No, you can't see my finger. Okay, where's my ruler? Here's my ruler. My ruler in here. Put my ruler out there. Okay. So, in there. Now it goes into the centre of the filter in this case, which by filtering standards is, on this type of filter is normal, but in other applications that's abnormal. So we go into here, through here, this matches the inside of the impeller. It gets flung out the impeller back into this diffuser, which is sometimes called a stator, and what that does is that guides it out into the housing here. This here probably comes out somehow, it might be glued in. It's quite possibly glued in, it's probably a two-piece assembly, but I'm not going to put too much pressure on it to find out because it's okay. But you see, this is the water outlet, and I can put my finger in from the outlet. So the water comes out here, swirls round. There's a chamber in the back here, and the water comes out and goes to the, and then goes off to the filter. This will make a fair bit of pressure. We'll make enough pressure, obviously. But now what we'll do, because we've got it fixed enough, we'll put it back together. And so what we'll do is we'll just, question is, does the O-ring sit there or is it on the outside lip? Just check the size, because it had come off before I got to have a look. Let's see how we go. I always love this stuff. Probably set this O-ring up. We might not be able to set this O-ring up in here. A lot of the time when you're doing O-rings you can set them up in the housing and they pinch in. Now what's interesting here is this O-ring, if you looked at it you go, that O-ring's too small. And it is looking too small. So what we're going to do is that O-ring must sit out here because it needs to be stretched. It needs to go, in this case, on this outside lip. Now we'll know pretty quick when we're putting together whether I've got it right or wrong, because if I've got it wrong it'll be too tight to get together. We'll take a couple of our trusty bolts because they will help me guide it together. I'll put one end on one side, one end on the other side. And we'll let gravity do the work. Now, I'll lift it up again, and that O-ring's still in place. So, just give that a, just loosely spin these up by finger, using finger tight. I stop throwing things on the ground. I'm not working in a normal position because I'm trying to let you people see what's going on, and you can't see. So we'll come round to this side, and that feels good. Okay, while we're doing this, these are stainless washers. These are stainless nuts, bolts and washers. These bolts on the end of them, which you might not be able to read, A4-70, that's the grade of the bolt. The, whatever it is, RY, that's the manufacturer's designation. A4-70 is the type of stainless it is. This is stronger than 316, 304, 309, 312. These are essentially a high tensile stainless bolt. They're pretty good, but don't break them because they're sods to drill out. Stainless is always bad, but these are worse. Now, little lesson on washers. A washer is a stamped object. What that means is that it has a flat face and a rounded face. Now, again, I don't know if you can see that, but when you put a washer on, generally you put the round face to the bit that will move. In this case, we put the washer under the nut, because we're going to hold the bolt head, we're going to turn the nut, and we'll put the round face to the nut. Now, if I was going to hold the nut and turn the bolt, I'd turn the washer around 180 degrees, and I'll put the round face to the bolt. Now on this, these bolts are kind of sort of held captive. They've got a hex in the plastic to help hold them, so you don't have to hold. You don't want the washer on this end. The other thing too is that when you are tightening stuff, if you use a nut and a bolt thread, you generally tighten a nut because it has less overall frictional forces, because like the bolt drags on the side of the housings, whatever you're screwing it through, and you generally tighten the nut because it gives you more clamping force. Now, we're not going to go into full theory on what's tight and what's not tight, and how much frictional loss you get when you're tightening stuff up, but that's what we're going to do. Now, the other thing too here is, because it's stainless and plastic, yes, I got that the right way around, because we're talking stainless, and when I say plastic, it's a glass reinforced plastic that we have here. I'm not using any anti-seize now, or grease or any lubricant, because we don't need a lot of clamping force to start with, and anything I introduce potentially gives me an electrolysis problem. So in this case, less is more. The other thing too here is that I'm not operating in a salt environment. If I was operating in a salt or a heavily contaminated environment, then I would quite possibly use, I didn't check that washer, and it was the wrong way up. I would quite possibly put something on it regardless. One of the other issues with stainless steel is it's renowned for galling. It's not particularly good when you tighten it up. It's very, very, very easy to damage threads. So we'll put my rule back in my pocket. What I'm going to do is I'm going to nip this one a little bit. Now what we've got here is we've got a bit of a gap, and that's a good thing, because what it does is it tells me that I'm compressing the O-ring on both sides. And as I tighten it up, I've still got a little bit of a gap here, a little bit of a gap there, a little bit of a gap there, and a little bit of a gap here. And those gaps are about even. Now what that tells me is that I haven't pinched the O-ring. If they were uneven, I'd be checking for a pinched O-ring. Now the other thing too is when I do these up, I don't get a squishy feeling. It's not like squeezing a sponge ball. It's all happening quite firmly. you know, it pulls up without too much, like I'm not putting much pressure on it, it pulls up quite nicely. I don't have to put pressure on it to get it to close up the gaps. When I say pressure, I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it, there's a little bit of pressure. Now, what would happen is if the O-ring had come off and I was tightening it up, what it would do is it would feel, well, strange is the word I'll use, but what you'll do is as you do it up, you'll feel that this side will be different to that side, because what you're doing is you're pinching the O-ring on one side and it's seating properly on the other side, and that will give you a warning before you go to tighten it up. The other thing too is that when I was tightening it up, the reason I was looking at the gaps is that it will start to tighten up you'll start to feel pressure when it's still at the thickness of the O-ring or very close to it, just under that thickness. And so that's another thing that tells you haven't got it right. So there we go. We drop the filter in. Yes, you can see what's going on. We'll go and put this back on. When I put this back on, what I will do is I will put a bucket of water in here. Now some of it's going to run out, but it'll end up full to about here with water. The thing to remember with these pumps use a mechanical type seal. They don't like running dry at all. They can run dry for a little bit, but ideally you never run them dry ever. The reality of life is that providing they've got a little bit of moisture on them and they don't run for too long, they'll survive a lack of water and restricted water. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes. It's obviously been run at a high level of restriction, which means it hasn't had much water. It means it would have been hot as hell because the water cools it. The reason I've turned it over is underneath here there's actually a void. There's an opening in this motor casting. There's an opening with a telltale. The water can run out and there's no sign that there's been water running out of it. So what that tells me is that as of the minute I pulled this out, this pump was not leaking water. The other thing is it's very difficult for it to leak water when it hasn't got enough water in it. Now what's going to happen? What's going to happen is I'll put this back together. It'll start pumping water. It'll pump at a higher pressure than it's pumped before, and if that seal is damaged, it won't last too long. We'll start pumping water everywhere. Out the bottom of the seal there'll be water dropping out here onto this back foot. It'll be going everywhere. And then if that happens, well, there'll be another video on how to put a mechanical seal, how to pull these pumps apart and how to put a mechanical seal in them. Or there might be a video on how to fit a new pump, because there'll be more plumbing involved. So I'll go and throw it on and we'll see how it goes. So for those of you that are curious, this is a Davey Power Master Eco Series. They're expensive compared to some of the other pumps, but they do save a fair bit of power. They've got a soft start. You can run them on low, medium or high speed. Yeah, I've been really happy with it. It works really well when I'm vacuuming the pool. It gives good water circulation. I can turn it down when so it doesn't get too carried away. And based on my personal experience of one pump, which you can't see now because it's out of shot, but it's right here underneath, based on my personal experience of this one pump, I would have no hesitation in recommending it to anyone else. And remember that I paid for it out of my own pocket. Davey's, I've got no affiliation with Davey. They don't do anything for me. They don't even know who I am. But yeah, look, that's all the basics in that pump are good. Glass reinforced housings, the rotor, everything in it, you know, alright, it's a plastic rotor, it's a glass reinforced type of plastic, it's a GRP rotor. That's exactly what you want. It doesn't suffer from corrosion. It does everything that you need it to do. The hardware, the A4-70 bolts, that's you put a 316 in it, you put a 309 bolt in it. A lot would. They're a little bit cheaper, they'll save a few cents a pump. The A4-70s, they're high tensile, they're a better quality bolt. Yeah, it's a high-end pump, you expect to see that stuff, but they're doing it. Because you expect to see it doesn't mean that it's going to happen. They're doing it. There's a bit of electronics in it. It seems to be quite robust. It's got a number of features on it which I don't use. There's a port. Actually, there's a plug here on the end where you can plug stuff into it. I've never had a look in there, to be honest with you. And quite frankly, I'm not that fussed about having a look in there, but I think that's for plugging in so you can remote control it. I think that's a remote control. You go stop function here. Eco flow, mid flow, high flow. Just remember that when you are using them as a pool vacuum, when you're vacuuming or you got the creepy crawly on them, in most cases you'll need to be on high flow, because if you have it not on high flow, you haven't got enough water flow for them to actually work properly. So you might have to go press high flow and then you go back to eco flow. The other advantage of having it on eco flow is it's not using as much power, obviously, that's why they call it eco. But particularly if you're running chlorinators and that, you might have to run the system for a bit longer. There's always a bit of suck it and see. But what you do is you just start it up and run it, and monitor what your chlorine levels are. So thanks very much for watching. I'm going to put this back on now and give it a run, and I'll have absolutely no doubt it's going to work a treat. So yeah, hopefully I'll make a few more videos before I go out to my next job. Incidentally, those of you that are wondering where my what's in your box stuff is, as far as I'm aware, it's still in the US. It's coming out by a different method to what the other lucky prize winners are receiving their stuff. So my stuff will tag along in the background. With a bit of luck, I'll see it February or March. Yeah, I would like to see now. Really, I'm all excited, but it's not here, and that's how it is. And I was quite happy for it to be delayed if it was going to save Keith a few dollars sending it out. So yeah, when it gets here, you will see a video on it. So thanks very much, and thanks for watching.